I am thine, O Lord, I have heard thy voice, and it told thy love to me. But I long to rise in the arms of faith, and be closer drawn to thee. Draw me nearer, nearer, blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side. Hi, you're listening to That Other Life. I'm your host, Richard Haddad. Draw Me Nearer is written by Fanny Crosby. In the second verse she writes, Consecrate me now to thy service, Lord, by the power of grace divine. Let my soul look up with a steadfast hope, and my will be lost in thine. Today's topic is the question of all questions, which comes in many flavors. Is it okay for a Christian to listen to worldly music? Is it okay for a Christian to drink beer? Is it okay for a Christian to dance? Is it okay for a Christian to smoke? Is it okay for a Christian to... And you can follow it with whatever leisure or pleasure that you can think of. The answer will still be the same. It's the question that's wrong. It seems at first that the question is about permissibility. Am I allowed to? But it's not. What people are really asking when they ask if a Christian should or if it's okay for him to do this or that is, how far can I go? That's the real question, isn't it? How far can I go and still be a Christian? How far can I go and still be okay? Still be within the confines of what it means to be a Christian. And this isn't a new problem. This was a problem that the Israelites in the Old Testament faced. God gave them the Ten Commandments, but they didn't find them satisfactory enough. Problems arose that they couldn't quite solve just by the Ten Commandments. So Moses then writes them 600 laws that explain scenario by scenario how they ought to act. But you come back to God, you come back to Jesus, who in the New Testament, in the Gospels says, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. That's in Matthew 22, Mark 12, and Luke 10. This wasn't a new commandment or a new idea that Jesus was bringing along. Jesus was quoting Deuteronomy 6. All 10 commandments, all the laws, all that the prophets preached rested on these two commandments. The Lord comes first, always. And as far as how I treat my neighbor, love him as I love myself. See, the Israelites thought, as long as they don't break the 10 commandments, as long as they don't murder, steal, or commit adultery, they're okay. Jesus brought the matter right home by saying the 10 commandments are more a matter of the heart. Hatred in the heart is murder. Lust in the heart is adultery. The 10 commandments were not a boundary. They were and still are the standard for holiness. They are proof that we cannot come to God on our own terms. We simply would not qualify. That's why we ask questions like, is it okay if I listen to worldly music? We want to know, how far is too far? That's the wrong question to be asking. The right question is, how much nearer can I draw to Him? How can my will, my desire, be lost in His will and desire? Like Francis says in her song, Draw Me Nearer. Paul puts it perfectly in two different passages. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 12 says, All things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 24, Paul says, All things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful, but not all things edify. As one Bible paraphrase put it, just because something is technically legal, it doesn't mean that it's spiritually appropriate. But what points is Paul making in these two passages? Well, 3 points to be exact. The first is this. Just because something is allowed, it doesn't mean that it's good. The second point, just because something is allowed, it doesn't mean I should become a slave to it. Number 3, just because something is allowed, it doesn't mean that it's helpful or beneficial for others. To be a Christian is to bear the image of Christ. How then must I live? Well, firstly, out of all things that I'm allowed to do, I will only allow myself the things that draw me nearer to Him, things that edify, things that strengthen, things that He would do. Secondly, out of all things that I'm allowed to do, I will only allow myself the things that let the Spirit win over the flesh. Things that put God as the captain, not my instincts, not my tendencies, not my desires. Thirdly, out of all the things that I'm allowed to do, I will only allow myself the things that benefit others rather than be a stumbling block. These 3 points can be summarized simply by saying that God expects us to put Him first, always. And as far as how I treat others, I look for their benefit as much as I look for mine. Those words sound familiar, don't they? So, is it okay for a Christian to listen to worldly music? Well, I run the risk of encouraging the wrong thing by saying sure, it's okay. I mean, just look at the songs being sung in church gatherings these days. Clearly, we're okay with worldly music. But is it beneficial? Is it good? Does it build? Does it help? Is it worthy of Christ? And the answer is a big, absolute and emphatic no. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Send them through to opinions@thatotherlife.com. That's opinions, OPINIONS, at thatotherlife.com. Thank you for listening. I'm Richard Haddad, and these have been my thoughts on That Other Life.